Fantastic. Everybody, you get to deal with me for another second because I get to introduce our new moderator for this session. And a little change from November, and if you've been here in November, but we invited certain Twitter personalities or people with a bit of a profile in the sector to moderate the next sessions and maybe ask some questions, but also keep us on time. Okay, Pete, that's the biggest task you'll have is keep the CEOs on time. I really appreciate your time, Pete, for coming out. He's Pete Van Russelt. He's really active on Twitter. He's got, I think you got close to 10,000 followers now on the Twitter machine, and really great insights into the sector. Really great discussions being led by you as well, and really appreciate your time and coming up here and moderating this session. And keep him on track. Give him hell. Thank you so much, and I'll see you later. Thank you. And as David said, next up we have Dominic Roberts from Adriatic.
Good morning. That was a great presentation already from David. I'll keep it short and crisp. I think I invited me because I'm Belgian. I'm a bit the neutral voice between the Canadians and the Germans here. First up, we have Dominic Roberts from Adriatic Metals, which will be the next new mining company or producer in Europe. Polymetallic, mainly on silver, but also other strategic metals there. And Dominic is the corporate manager of affairs. He has experience in the Balkans, specifically for the last few decades, so he's well suited to give this presentation. So I'll give the 12 minutes to you, Dominic.
Thank you, Pete. To be honest, I'd be quite happy if Pete stood up here for 12 minutes, because I think he knows very possibly more about the project than I do, and indeed has been out quite a lot of times to the project. Thank you, Peter. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. As I said, my name is Dominic Roberts. I'm head of corporate affairs at Adriatic Metals, and I'm going to disappoint you a little bit, I'm afraid, because we're not a gold miner. But what we are is Europe's next homegrown producer of strategic metals. Yes, we have some gold in our mix. In fact, actually, we are very polymetallic mine. We are broadly 50% PM and 50% base metals, of which, until recently, actually, majority of our revenues came from silver. But zinc is having its sort of Cinderella moment, although it's calming down a little bit, and has started to play quite a part. So, leading on from Kai's comments, actually, he doesn't care about silver. We do, quite a lot, actually, and I think we're probably part of his silver line that he was talking about. And actually, I think the thing is here, we talked about jet lag as well. I don't have any jet lag, because I've come from the same time zone, and I'm going to go back to the same time zone. So I'm not going to talk a huge amount about gold today. I'm going to talk quite a lot actually about Europe and the way we are all heading in Europe and what it is that we all need to do and how we are playing what we think is an increasingly important part in that. And that is the point. We are I believe we're at the right time as a project, well, the right place and indeed the right project. Bosnia is not terribly well known for mining. It is well known for many other things, unfortunately. But Bosnia is going to get well known. We are playing a small part of that. As most of you, I think, will be aware, we sit on the Tethyan. In fact, we are probably the last expression of the Tethyan up to the northwest. The history of the companies, we started in 2017. We had an extraordinary discovery hole. We listed on the ASX a year later and developed a fantastic band of committed retail investors, many of whom are still with us here today. A couple of years later, listed on the London main market to get access to institutionals and to actually also get access to the increasingly European-focused and sustainability-focused funds from across Europe. We've finished our scoping study. We've done our PFS. We've done our DFS. We've completed the first internationally compliant ESIA in the natural resources sector in Bosnia. We are fully funded. We have started construction. We are fully permitted. Sat here today, our mining contractor is preparing to start the development of our lower decline. The civil works contractors are starting on the foundations at the processing plant. Long lead times are ordered, and we've also started the first section of our haul road. This thing is happening. This is an extraordinary high-grade project located here in Europe. In fact, it's one of the highest-grade polymetallic deposits anywhere in the world that is being brought into production. We talk about captivating economics. At our DFS last year, we're north of $1 billion NPV8. We have a wonderful IRR of 134%. In the first 5 years of production, our mine pulls out 250 million free cash flow a year. And this is a company-building mine, and this mine will support our absolute aspiration of becoming Europe's next homegrown, mid-tier, multi-asset, diversified mid-cap miner, and it'll be off the back of this mine. This is a company-building project. Our all-in sustaining costs, it's just over $7 an ounce of silver, also rather tell that story in a very poetic way. We are one of the lowest cost new silver projects globally, extraordinarily so. And say this is a company-building project. And those costs are exactly why we will be producing that cash flow. But it's also, it is again, coming back to our European story, we are located in quite a unique jurisdiction here in Europe. Our concentrates, which we have just finished the marketing of, nearly 80% of our concentrates actually will go into smelters in Europe. We will not be shipping our concentrates across the globe, burning heavy oil. We'll be able to take them straight into smelters in Northern Europe, who in themselves have the highest levels of sustainable operations. And then from those smelters, these metals that we're going to produce are going to come down here, and I'm delighted to be in Germany, as the German, particularly car manufacturing world, wakes up to electric. And we're going to be producing metals here in Europe. We are going to be a part of actually Europe's requirement to hedge against deglobalization, to hedge against all of the trade disruption, which of course has been accelerated tenfold in the last couple of months with the lunacy that's happening in Ukraine. And so we will be playing very much our part in fulfilling the European strategy and the European requirement of amending or of rebalancing its resource dependency on the rest of the world and bringing it back here to Europe. Our IRR of 134% also puts us in an extraordinary position. Now, in some ways, we're very lucky. Part of our IRR story is, in fact, that our capital expenditure at 164 million is very small for the project that we're doing. But that's because this was a brownfield project. This had been mined historically by the Yugoslavians. We have roads. We have a dedicated railhead at mine site that will take our concentrate straight down to Ploče port and from there straight into the northern European ports. And it is also a highly competitive jurisdiction in Europe. Yes, we're on the continental landmass. Yes, we're aspiring to join the EU, but Bosnia still has a long way to go in terms of its economic growth. Now, I sincerely hope that actually as we play our small part in it, as we are ambassadors for that country, but as we start to talk about nearshoring, which is a word I hadn't even heard of 2 years ago, and as European manufacturers start talking about bringing manufacturing back from the East or the Far East, I think Bosnia's got an enormous part to play in that. Because of these conditions. We are a low tax regime. We do have actually relatively low labour costs, and those play into our fantastic financial performance. I sincerely hope the labour costs go up in the future because the country deserves it. But it is a country that is ready to do business, and we'll see increasingly more of that. Again, right time, right place, right project. For those that know the project, our ore body is called Rapitsa. The polymetallic 12 million tonne resource of Rapitsa sits, as I say, at the top of the Tethyan belt. But Rapitsa, we put a maiden resource on it a couple of years ago, but it is by no means finished. We are open to the northwest, we're open to the south, and we're open down at depth still. And we are drilling on this. Particularly in the northwest, we are seeing very strong indications of significant life of mine increases. And very strong intercepts now stepping out quite some way from that deposit. And those are in Vares, and we'll have results in the coming weeks on those. But so much so is that trend that we've actually put an application in to extend our concession area further to the northwest, because we know that that deposit is going, and we know that we will be taking this forward from what is currently a 10-year life of mine. We're going to get 20 years out of that. But it's not just here. We've tied up the largest exploration land package in the country. We have over 40 square kilometres, locking up the geological structure that hosts Rapitsa, and we have a number of drill-ready targets throughout those. Because this is a sort of deposit that where you see it in other places in the world, there is a tendency for this to repeat. We've done the work, we know where the targets are, and we will be moving this year into starting to drill some of those as well. And ultimately, our processing plant is actually located in the middle of that land package. Yes, it is 25 kilometres away from the deposit. Yes, we have to build a haul road, which is under construction now. But ultimately, our ambition is that that processing plant will be what I'd like to call a hub and spoke operation for these other targets that we're starting to drill. And actually, in our wildest dreams, we go well beyond our 20 years. I think, going back again to that point of Bosnia, when you look globally at permitting and how long it takes, I think we probably deserve a gold medal, or rather Bosnia deserves a gold medal. We have permitted from start to finish this project in 2.5 years. And that's not because corners have been cut. EBRD are a shareholder. EBRD have made sure that we are all, every one of us, not just the company, but the government that hosts us as well, have done the right thing. And we have still been able to do this in 2.5 years. We make an enormous difference to the country. Yes, we're adding 1.5% of GDP. So, of course, the politicians have taken notice of that. But actually, it's more about the partnership. It is about the extraordinary pride that we have in what we've been able to achieve in our communities, the near-mine communities, the municipality, the canton, and all the way up to government. And when we wake up in the morning, we're delighted that our drillers have just smashed out 50 meters in 24 hours on an exploration drill rig. And that's great, but do you know what? We're much, much happier and much prouder of our staff, of the young Bosnian engineers who are coming into this project. We are particularly proud every time we bring a member of the diaspora back. 30 years ago, Bosnia had a terrible time, and a lot of people left. A lot of its talent left, which is why the country hasn't perhaps been able to move on. And we are giving people an opportunity, the guys and girls who left Bosnia 30 years ago, and many of them did go to the mining sector. Many of them did go down, particularly to Australia. And on Wednesday, a Bosnian man was given the opportunity, after 30 years of experience in Australia, to bring his family back to his home country, to bring all of the expertise and experience he's gained there and to deliver it in, because we are there doing this mine. And that is what we are, frankly, most proud about. A little bit of detail. We completed an equity raise in autumn of 2021. We are, as I said, fully funded. Our equity partners are Orion Resource Partners out of New York, who are proving to be a fantastic partner and working very closely with us. They believe very, very strongly in this project. And not only in this project, actually, they believe in, I think, it's very humbling, but our ability as a management team to take this story forward and acquire other projects within Europe. As of 31st of March, but out of date, we had 80 million sterling in the bank. We're a little bit smaller there because we are furiously spending money delivering the project. We will draw down the first portion of our debt some point in the summer. But the point here is we are fully funded. We have contingencies in place and cash reserves. Yes, we're seeing cost inflation, particularly in diesel. But within the economics of this project, within that very low capex, we have room. So we are still absolutely confident of being able to deliver on budget and on time in June next year. I think the story really with the corporate structure, and again, it's one of the reasons I'm very pleased to be stood here today. We had a fantastic sort of retail following, very strong committed retail investors, particularly out of our ASX listing. We then moved across to the London market to get access to some more of the institutional money, and we sit here today actually with a really quite healthy balance of that. We are doing the right thing. We are doing it in the right place. The European institutions, the ones with the high sustainability requirements, are recognizing this and are coming more and more on board. And I think we'll see more of that in the future, and we very much expect to.
Dominic, almost time to...
Yeah, no, don't worry. I am almost there. I think, this is a company building project. This gives us the ability to dream and to look big and to look at actually what it is we can do. Our ambition from the near-term cash flow that we're going to generate, from our ability to extend the mine life very quickly around the Rapitz deposit, is to become a multi-asset, diversified European miner. We sign up. We believe in this. We agree with what Europe is looking to do. If Europe is going to be able to deliver a carbon net zero future, it is going to require to underpin its manufacturing base. It is going to require to underpin those incredibly clever companies that are delivering the renewable energy future and the net zero future. And they need our metals, and they need a source of that, and they need to actually deleverage themselves from supply chains that are already under enormous pressure. And that is exactly what we are going to do. So I believe we're at the right time, in the right place, and it's the right project. Thank you.
We have 2 minutes left. Any applause? Dominic? Any questions from the audience directly? Or I'll kick off with a general one. When are you seeing start of production, and how are you seeing cost inflation and cost control?
Okay, start of production June next year. Ramping up, obviously, we are a polymetallic. We know this perfectly well. It's a geomet project, and it will take us a little time to balance the processing plant. And certainly in the agreements we've made with the off-takers, with the traders and the smelters, we recognise that, so there's a ramp up. But start of production will be in June. In terms of cost inflation, I mean, diesel, yes, particularly. We've actually had an opportunity where we were in our development schedule, looking at the price inflation that started 3 or 4 months ago to do some re-engineering solutions. We've removed steel, for example, from the portals in most of the infrastructure in the buildings and replaced it with concrete. And I think also there's a Bosnia story here. Bosnia does not have a very strong export. I think we are less exposed in some ways due to the lack of to the sort of trade import-export balance in Bosnia to some of the pressures other miners are seeing. We are, of course, on top of this and watching it very closely, but at the moment we see no reason why we will not be able to deliver on time and on budget.
Perfect.
Which you'll be pleased to hear, I hope.
Thank you.
Full. Thank you very much. Look at that.
Perfect. Perfect.